There's a low hum in the room, almost like a mosquito that won't quit. Ted's face down on the table, shirt off, doing his best to act casual about the fact that a stranger is aiming a laser at the small of his back. And on that back, fading pulse by pulse, is a butterfly, a tramp stamp he got one reckless night he'd give anything to forget. The woman holding the laser doesn't laugh. She's seen 100 of these. She just works. Quiet, precise, and a little tired around the eyes. Her name is Stella, and everyone watching this show is about to decide she's the villain. Here's the thing, though. Watch her hands, not Ted's face. Her hands. Ask most How I Met Your Mother fans about Stella, and you get one phrase. The runaway bride. The woman who left Ted Mosby at the altar, broke his heart on what was supposed to be the best day of his life, and ran off with her ex. Case closed. Villain. I believe that too, honestly. For years she was just the speed bump before the real story started. But then I went back and actually watched her. Not Ted watching her. Not Ted narrating her. Her. And what I found wasn't a villain. It was a woman who'd been left once already, who'd built her entire life around protecting one small person, and who made the one honest choice nobody ever forgave her for. You think this is the story of the woman who ruined Ted's wedding. It's really the story of the woman who was right to leave. And by the end of this, I think you're going to feel a little guilty about how you remembered her. Pull up a seat under the yellow umbrella. Let's decode Stella. So who is she, before Ted turns her into a symbol? Stella's a dermatologist, single mom. Her daughter's name is Lucy, and Lucy is the center of gravity for everything this woman does. Every early morning, every double shift, every lunch she skips. And look, I don't think it's an accident the writers made her a person who removes tattoos for a living. Her whole existence is quietly built around cleaning up the marks that reckless choices leave on people, erasing the past so somebody can move on. Hold on to that laser. We're coming back to it more than once, because the way Stella meets Ted tells you everything about the wound she's carrying, and almost nobody clocks it. Ted, being Ted, falls fast. Somewhere across 10 laser sessions, he decides Stella is the one, obviously, because that's what Ted does. And he asks her out, and she says no. Not cruelly, she just says she doesn't have time. She's got a kid, a practice, a life stretched thin as a paper. So Ted pulls the grand gesture, the 2-minute date.
You only have 2 minutes, right?
Right.
Okay. Want to go on a 2-minute date with me?
Last 2-minute date I had gave me a daughter. But, okay.
Great.
He crams a whole evening into 2 minutes. Dinner, a movie, a little walk in the rain, coffee, the entire arc of a night out, folded into the only gap she's got. And it's charming. It really is. It's one of the sweetest things Ted does in the whole series. I'm not going to take that from him. But watch what it quietly says about Stella. This is a woman so guarded, so rationed, that 2 minutes is honestly all she can hand a stranger. That's not a quirk. That's armor. Somewhere back there, Stella learned that giving anyone more than 2 minutes is how you get hurt, and we're about to find out exactly where she learned it. His name is Tony, and he's the ghost in every scene she's in long before he ever shows his face. Here's the piece that reframes her completely for me. Lucy has a father, a man named Tony, and Tony left. He walked out on Stella while she was pregnant, bailed on the whole thing, and Stella raised that little girl by herself, sat down in the wreckage he made, and built a life anyway. So when you meet Stella, you're not meeting some cold woman who just can't open up. You're meeting someone who opened all the way up once, gave a person everything, and got left holding a newborn and a life she had to rebuild from nothing. That's the wound! And psychologists actually have a name for what it does to you, and it's the thing I want you to carry for the rest of this video. It's called an abandonment wound. When someone leaves you at your most exposed, your nervous system doesn't just get sad and move on. It learns. It rewires. It starts treating closeness itself like a threat. And the smartest, safest thing you can possibly do, your brain decides, is to just never need anyone that much again. 2 minutes. That's not stinginess, that's the wound talking. So when Ted shows up offering forever, you'd assume that's the happy ending. It isn't. And this is where it starts to get complicated. Ted and Stella get serious. He proposes. She says yes. On paper, this is the exact story we've been trained to cheer for. The hopeless romantic finally lands his girl. The guarded single mom finally lets somebody in. Roll credits. But I want to be honest about something the show keeps showing us, even while Ted can't see it himself. Ted isn't in love with Stella. Ted's in love with the idea of Stella. There's a term for this in psychology. Idealization. It's when you fall for a picture of a person instead of the actual person. You take all their blank spaces and you fill them in with the qualities you wish they had, and then you fall for the version you painted. And Ted does this constantly. It's basically his whole romantic operating system. He did it with Robin, he did it with the abstract idea of the one. And he does it hard with Stella. Watch how he talks about her versus how he talks to her. He's got this entire future pre-built in his head. The house, the wedding, the life, the ending. And Stella keeps gently trying to be a real three-dimensional person inside that painting. She's got a daughter he's still figuring out how to parent. She's got an ex she never really processed. She's got a whole inner life that doesn't fold up neatly into Ted's story about his own destiny. This is the part that gets me on the rewatch, honestly. Because Stella spends most of that engagement sort of apologizing for being a full person, for having a past, for not being the clean, simple, ready-made soulmate Ted so badly needs her to be. She keeps shrinking to fit the frame, and then Tony comes back, and the whole thing cracks straight down the middle. The wedding's out at Shelter Island, supposed to be a beautiful day, and Tony shows up, the man who left, Lucy's real father. He shows up and he says the exact thing Stella waited years to hear, that he was wrong, that he wants his family back. Now here's where the internet convicted her, because she leaves. She's standing there in the dress, and she tells Ted she can't do it, and she goes back to Tony, left him at the altar. And it's brutal, I won't pretend otherwise. Ted did not deserve to be humiliated like that, and the show lets that pain just sit there in the room. It doesn't rush him through it. But I need you to hold two things at the same time, because both are true and neither one cancels the other. Yes, the way she left Ted was painful. And also, leaving was the right call. Think about who Stella actually is at her core. She's a woman whose deepest wound is a family that got ripped apart, a daughter growing up without her dad, which is the precise thing that broke Stella in the first place. And now, the universe walks up and offers her the one thing she never let herself hope for. A chance to make her kid whole, to hand Lucy the intact family that Stella herself never got to keep. That is not a woman chasing an old flame. That's a mother doing math. Cold, brutal, honest math. On one side of the equation, a good man who's in love with the idea of her. On the other side, a chance to heal the single deepest wound in her life and her daughter's life in one move. You already know which way that math falls. Anybody who's a parent knows. And if you still want to call her the villain, wait till you see what Ted himself does next. Because even he can't hold the anger. Here's the detail people conveniently forget. Later on, Ted goes to see them. And Tony, drowning in guilt, tries to make it right in the most Tony way imaginable, offering Ted a car, of all things, trying to buy himself a clean conscience. And Ted, standing there in their home, sees something. He sees Lucy. He sees the three of them together. He sees a family that actually works. And Ted, the guy who got left at the altar, the one person with every right to torch the place, gives them his blessing instead. Sit with that for a second. The person with the most reason on earth to hate Stella looked at her choice and basically said, "You were right, go be a family. If Ted can get there, why couldn't the rest of us?" But it doesn't stop being complicated, because a few years later, Tony does something that makes Stella's whole side look like the bad guys all over again. And it's the piece that made me completely rethink what her leaving actually did for Ted. Tony becomes a screenwriter, and he writes a movie. A romantic comedy where the villain, the smug, pretentious jerk who gets dumped and completely deserves it, is named Ted Mosby. It's Ted, barely even disguised. Tony took the worst day of Ted's life and turned it into a punchline playing on 1,000 screens. And when you watch Ted sitting in that theater, watching a cartoon version of himself get humiliated for laughs, it's so easy to go, see, these people were awful to him. She left him and then let her guy put him on blast in front of the whole country. But stay with me, because I think that movie is the exact moment that the show quietly reveals its twist. Here's the reframe that changes the entire thing for me. If Stella marries Ted at Shelter Island, if she says yes and actually goes through with it, then Ted spends his one life married to a woman who loves him like a habit, co-raising a daughter with a man who was always kind of a placeholder for the guy who left. A decent life, a gray one, and he never meets her. He never meets the mother. Every single thing that carries Ted to Tracy. The yellow umbrella, the train platform, the love of his actual life. All of it runs directly through Stella walking away from that altar. Her leaving wasn't the thing that wrecked Ted's happy ending. It was the thing that made his happy ending possible in the first place. So think about what that actually means. The woman everybody files under villain handed Ted the single greatest gift anyone gives him in the whole series. She set him free, and she just did it in a wedding dress, which, fair, is a really hard way to receive a gift. And here's the part that stops me cold every time. Stella never got 1 ounce of credit for it. In Ted's story, the one he's telling his kids years later, she's a chapter of pain, a cautionary tale, the runaway bride, because that's genuinely how it felt from inside his heartbreak. But from where we're sitting, from the outside, she's the hinge the entire happy ending swings on. Let me bring back the laser. Remember the very first thing we ever watched Stella do. She erases a butterfly off Ted's back. A beautiful mistake from a reckless chapter of his life, gently, professionally lifted away so he can move on clean. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Ted was Stella's butterfly. A beautiful, sweet, well-meaning mistake from a chapter where she almost settled for the wrong kind of love, for the safe painting instead of the real thing. And when Tony walked back in, she did to Ted exactly what she does for a living. She removed the mark. So they could both go be who they were actually supposed to be. That's not villainy. That's mercy. It just didn't look a thing like mercy standing there at the altar. The real tragedy of Stella isn't that she was cruel. It's that she did the brave, correct, loving thing, and the story remembered her as a villain for it anyway. She healed her daughter's family. She freed a good man to go find a better love. And her reward was to become a punchline in someone else's movie and a warning label in someone else's story. She deserved better than the way we remembered her. I really believe that. And that's the thing I actually want to talk to you about. Because I don't think this is really just about Stella. Here's where it gets personal. And I want you to actually sit in this one for a second. Somewhere in your life there's a person who left. Or a person you left. And odds are you filed that person under villain, or under failure, or under the biggest mistake you ever made. We all do it. We take the people who redirected our entire lives and we turn them into the reason something got ruined. But what if some of them were Stella? What if the person who walked away wasn't ruining your story at all? What if they were removing a mark so you could go find the thing you were actually meant to find? What if the worst day, the altar day, the day it all fell apart, was the exact hinge your whole happy ending needed to swing on? You might not see it yet. Ted didn't see it either, sitting in that theater watching a movie make fun of him. It took him years. Sometimes it just takes years. But the person who left you might turn out to be the reason you ever found your yellow umbrella. If that hits something, if you've got a Stella somewhere in your story, someone you might finally be ready to stop calling the villain, do me one favor and tap that subscribe button, because that's the whole point of this channel. Finding the actual human being underneath the label everybody slapped on them. We do it every week, one character at a time, and I would genuinely love to have you in the seat right next to me for it. Because here's the last thing, and then I'll let you go. The show actually gives Stella a small, quiet grace note, if you're paying attention. She gets her family, Lucy gets her dad, Tony gets a second chance he probably didn't earn but got anyway. It's not a punishment ending. It's a happy one. The writers didn't damn her. We did. The fandom did. The story let Stella win. We just weren't ready to let her have it. So maybe give her the win back. Next time somebody calls Stella the runaway bride, tell them the real version. Tell them about the single mom with the laser and the 2-minute heart. The one who got left once and decided, whatever it costs her, that her daughter would never have to feel that. And who, on her way out the door, quietly handed Ted Mosby the entire rest of his life. That's Stella, not the villain. The hinge. I'm decoding How I Met Your Mother, one character at a time. I'll see you in the next one.